Following the receipt of one of my comments on a previous video about the strange idea of calling people gods as singers when gods don't sing, I looked up some information on autism and particularly its relation to narcissism as portrayed in the movie Rain Man. Rain Man seems to be responsible for a lot of the current usage and discussion of autistic spectrum disorders in popular culture, particularly music and rap music. It in some ways mirrors the model of a god from the Bible in that the rapper is someone who's on the fringes of singing, doing something that has elements of singing to it, but primarily vocalizes and is accompanied by a backtrack of music, much like the Old Testament God is described in Job in terms of how he performed the creation. It's not really the singer so much as the one bringing things into existence while others sing for him and to him. This seems to come in part as a modern idea in reference to the movie Rain Man. There are two people in the movie who, through later associations, take on godlike characteristics. These are the two main male characters with various different types of personality disorder. Charlie, played by Tom Cruise, who's narcissistic. This is in some contexts referred to as having a god complex. And Raymond, his older brother, who is mildly autistic. The very term autistic is severely misapplied, as many terms derived from propaganda these days seem to be, in that it's applied about as far from the original meaning as possible. The autistic, supposedly, character played by Dustin Hoffman is actually only a very mild form of the disorder. Truly autistic people are the ones who are so disabled that they can't talk. So anyone talking is not displaying the full affliction of autism. Now, it's also closely related to narcissism, or not closely, but there are significant overlaps. Obsessive-compulsive behavior is common in both, and variations in how they relate by empathizing or failing to empathize with other people occur in both. There's a relationship between the two in that it seems to me some artists are given an autistic image or made to act in some ways which would bring autism to mind in order to make the narcissistic ones look good. Just like in the movie, Tom Cruise's character seems more sympathetic and more likable when he's around Raymond, even though he's there in many ways to exploit Raymond. There are several types of exploitation that go on in the movie. Raymond is in a strange way rewarded for being so mentally afflicted that he has to be institutionalized. He's left several $1 million, or at least the institution is, in order to take care of his personal needs. And Charlie resents this and wants to get his cut of the fortune. He therefore seeks to exploit Raymond in various ways, one of which is using him to go play games unauthorized by the casino, at the casino. This idea of gambling comes through in other ways too, in that anything the autistic spectrum disordered person, Raymond, does is seen as innate. He's a savant, but it's portrayed more like a gift. It doesn't seem to be something he's developed. And by glorifying these types of people who are just takers, in the case of Charlie, exploiters of other people, or those who are rewarded for having a mental disability in a way, then that denigrates the abilities of people who've actually had to work for what they've developed in musical or singing ability. There's this tendency to say, because people have been trained this way, oh, somebody who does this thing, well, must be a savant. And in my case, I think I can say pretty accurately that I am not. It took me several decades to even get started, the process of showing the notes that I've got on my channel, and several years more to make any difference in what the highest, in each step of the highest note in my progression was. There's this imitation of disability in the case of actors. They're portraying people who have a particular disability and being rewarded for it. There was a particular reward in that Dustin Hoffman won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his portrayal of Raymond in Rain Man. There was a competing script making the rounds at the time, which eventually got into the movie Forrest Gump, where Tom Hanks won the same Academy Award for Best Actor, and later on a movie about an initially brilliant man degrading in mental capacity over time. A Beautiful Mind won 4 Academy Awards and was nominated for 8. So there's this push behind several of these movies to glorify mentally ill people, and to the point, it seems, where it's easier to get accused of being mentally ill for doing the healthy thing. People are almost developing a fear of being mentally healthy now. There are a lot of celebrities and people on YouTube included who owe their fame in part to having some sort of disability or personality disorder. But some are more popular than others, and I have a suspicion at least that why there should be so many people saying they're bipolar, for instance, but almost nobody declaring themselves as narcissistic or histrionic, when those people should be present in a place where people are looking for lots of attention from other people. There should be attention. There should be personality disorders characterized by a seeking out of attention from others, and yet we don't hear any of these unless the person in question is actually selling a book about narcissism, in the case of Sam Vaknin, who promotes himself as a narcissist. The others, I think, are hidden, much like in the movie Rain Man, where Raymond is the officially diagnosed guy with a disability, whereas Charlie, the narcissistic one, according to a YouTube analysis, isn't officially portrayed as having something wrong with him, even though he's the first to display the symbolic characteristic at least, of a classically autistic person, in that he can't or won't talk. He sits in the car with his girlfriend and she can't get him going in a conversation. She's just there, much like a model on a game show where they're giving away a car, to display the car and make it look more attractive. And she even seems like she's attached to the car in one scene and knows it. There's a cultural barrier there as well, mimicking the difficulties of speech, in that she knows English as a second language and is completely versed in its use, the same way that people with some mental disabilities might relate to others, as if there were a cross-cultural barrier. There's maintenance of routine, a lot of rituals that Raymond maintains as part of his disorder, but which are also shared by people without any particular disorder. And he will fail to examine anything critically. He won't sort the wheat from the chaff. If he's given a commercial message, he'll remember it exactly and spout it back out, word for word, the way he got it. It's like almost somebody under hypnosis. So the effects of propaganda and commercialization of human relationships really show up in both Raymond and Charlie. They meet each other because of a car, and because Charlie is obsessed with cars. He's like a lapsed Christian in some ways, in that he has no relationship with his father in the Christian sense being the father. Instead, he wants only the material object he can get from his father, which is his father's car. And this becomes the meeting point for the two characters. Charlie realizes that Raymond is his brother because Raymond knows so many in-depth, specific details that prove he once had a pseudo-relationship with the car as well. This is how they embark on their relationship, and this is partly where some of the demonic connotations of Rain Man as it's currently used in rap and popular music may have come from, because it's the obsession with materialism and objects, relating to an object rather than a person. Charlie seeks out more of a relationship with an object than with a personal relationship with his father, and this is in some ways like a form of idolatry. He's worshipping an object. There's also a deal made in that Charlie's whole life revolves around dealing cars, as if he's never gotten over that refusal of his father to give him the car he wanted, and he's out getting it and dealing it and getting it over and over again. There's an idea there that perhaps he could have done something better with his life, and this is something I think that's echoed in the way the term Rain Man is used in popular culture today, in that there's this deliberate dumbing down for which people are rewarded, an imposed, self-imposed mental disability, which mimics the way that Raymond just does whatever he's told and is easily exploited in the film. So there's a number of meanings then. The last one, I guess, has to do with the relationship with religion, brought in because of the other connections we make outside a movie when we see a particular actor acting in a certain way. Tom Cruise is also a Scientologist in real life, and in the movie he's given a role that echoes the attitudes of Scientology toward mainstream psychiatry. He springs his brother from a mental institution, a conventional psychiatric institution, and takes him out into regular society where he has better access to his money, but also introduces him to what he sees as superficially finer things in life, like women in casino gambling. There's also later roles that the actors take that would make us retrospectively, perhaps not even consciously, assign a certain meaning that the characters wouldn't have had so much in the original movie. Tom Cruise later plays an opponent of a Prince of Darkness type character in Legend, but he also plays a vampire in Interview with the Vampire. Dustin Hoffman goes on to play tempter, devil's advocate, someone who puts doubt in the mind of the hero in The Messenger, where the hero is Joan of Arc, played by Mila Jovovich. And this is a little bit like the role that Rain Man plays in popular music references, in that he's someone who puts doubt in the mind of the performer. The performer imitates his methods, but there must be a certain amount of self-doubt creeping in when you're imitating someone who's mentally ill in order to make your living.